Today, we're diving into a really powerful legal tool. It's called the Hannahville Indian Community's Tribal Employment Rights Ordinance, or TERO for short. Now, at its heart, this is really a blueprint for empowering a community from the inside out, using employment as the foundation.
So, to really get our heads around this, we're going to tackle 5 key questions that get right to the point. First, what exactly is TERO? Who gets priority? How does the hiring process actually work? What happens if there's a disagreement? And, maybe most importantly, why does this whole thing matter so much?
All right, so first things first, what is TERO? Let's get right into the purpose and the real power behind this ordinance.
Okay, at its absolute core, TERO is all about community prosperity. The ordinance itself says its whole purpose is to boost the social and economic benefits of being a tribal member. And it does this by setting up a super clear priority system for jobs, putting tribal members, their families, and other indigenous people at the front of the line. It's really a powerful way to strengthen the tribe from within.
And what's really amazing is just how wide a net this thing casts. TERO isn't just for a couple of departments here and there. Nope, it covers the entire employment landscape. We're talking community agencies, tribal businesses, even big outside contractors working on tribal land. It's involved in everything from hiring and promotions to training and even layoffs. The whole shebang. So that's the big picture. But how does TERO actually prioritize people? Well, this gets us to the main engine of the whole thing, the preference system. But before we look at the list, there are 2 key words we absolutely have to define. First up is the word qualified. You can think of this as the gatekeeper. The TERO preference system only even kicks in for people who meet the minimum job requirements. In other words, you have to have the skills for the job, period. You've got to be qualified first, and then preference comes into play. Second, let's look at how the ordinance defines Indian. It's defined really broadly to include any member of any federally recognized tribe. Now, this is a really important detail because it shows the spirit of TERO isn't just about the Hannahville community, but it's also about supporting a much wider network of indigenous peoples. All right, so here's how it all comes together. The easiest way to think about it is like priority boarding for an airplane, but for jobs. At the very, very top, getting first dibs are qualified members of the Hannahville Indian community. From there, the list works its way down to spouses, then descendants, then members of other tribes, and so on, until you get to non-Indian applicants at the end of the line. But, and this is a really important but, the ordinance makes it crystal clear that preference is a huge factor, but it is not an automatic guarantee of a job. Hiring managers still have to look at everything, a person's full qualifications, their experience when they make that final call. It's a balancing act for sure. Okay, so we've got the what and the who down. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does this system actually work day to day when a job opens up? Well, the whole process is designed to be transparent. For starters, the ordinance says that every single job opening has to be posted for at least 5 working days. It seems simple, but that rule makes sure that people in the community actually have a fair shot to see the opening and throw their hat in the ring. The ordinance also does something really smart with job descriptions. It makes hiring managers draw a clear line between minimum requirements, the absolute non-negotiable must-haves, and desirable qualifications. The nice-to-haves that someone could probably learn on the job. This is so clever because it stops job postings from getting loaded up with things that might accidentally screen out perfectly good candidates. And here's where the accountability comes in. If a manager decides to hire someone with lower preference over a qualified applicant who has higher preference, they can't just do it and say nothing. They are required to write up a formal justification, sign it, and get it on file within 3 days. It's a system designed to keep the whole process honest. So what if an applicant thinks that decision was just plain wrong? What if they really believe the preference rules weren't followed? Well, TERO has a plan for that too. There's a whole process built right in.
There's a really clear step-by-step path to follow. The applicant gets 5 working days to file for a review. Then HR has 5 days to get it to the tribal chairperson, and a formal hearing has to happen within 20 working days. Those timelines are so important, they make sure the whole thing moves along and doesn't get stuck in limbo.
And listen, this isn't just some informal chat. It's a real formal hearing. A record is kept of everything. Both the applicant and the hiring managers get to make their case. The tribal council's decision is final, and if they find that the ordinance was violated, they have the power to order action to fix it. This is a system with some serious teeth. So we've seen how all the gears and levers work, but that brings us to the biggest question of all. Why? Why does an ordinance like TERO matter so much in the grand scheme of things? Really all comes back to that powerful mission statement we saw right at the beginning. TERO might look like a legal document full of rules, but its goal is deeply, deeply human. It's a direct game plan to build wealth, create opportunity, and foster stability within the community, for the community. And this thing is built to last. It includes a really smart legal safeguard called a severability clause. Basically, it means that if a court ever came along and struck down one little piece of the ordinance, the rest of it would still stand strong. It ensures the core mission can't be easily dismantled.
So, let's just wrap this all up. What have we learned? TERO is a system that gives priority to qualified tribal members and other Indians, but it does it with a smart balance, never forgetting the need for good candidates. It creates a transparent process with clear rules for everyone, and it has a formal process to handle disputes fairly. And when you put all that together, what you have is a powerful, real-world expression of tribal sovereignty, the right of a nation to build its own future.
Which leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. When a community makes a deliberate choice like this to put its own people first in employment, how does that one commitment ripple outward? How does it actively shape not just a few careers, but the entire economic and social destiny of a sovereign nation? It's a powerful idea, and one worth thinking about.